The Council sphere was designed to feel eternal, suspended in the void between trade routes and stars. It rotated slowly, wrapped in light fields and diplomatic beacons, a symbol that galactic law stood above war. Observer Commander Thalek of the Averin, combined, did not believe in symbols anymore. He stood in the upper gallery as the human ambassador finished her accusation. 3 colony worlds burned without declaration, she said, voice steady but burning underneath. Civilian grids targeted. Evacuation corridors jammed. This violates every charter you wrote. The chamber shimmered with translation halos as her words converted into 49 languages at once. Evidence holograms floated above her. Cities cratered into black glass, orbital farms shattered, atmosphere processors melted. No one disputed the images, but many avoided looking at them. Thalek noticed that, across the ring, the Croft delegate sat relaxed, too relaxed, armored fingers folded, mandibles slightly open in what passed for a smile among a species. Predators smile before feeding. The Council will deliberate, the High Arbiter intoned. Session lights dimmed. Sound barriers rose. Human microphones cut. Procedure. Delay. Distance. Control. Thalek felt the decision before it happened, because he had seen the private traffic earlier. Encrypted Elder Channel packets. Partition language. Resource grids. Territorial redistribution models. The vote had already happened. This hearing was theater. He slipped from the gallery before security locked movement lanes. His aide chirped in his ear implant. Sir, Elder Block Secure Channel active again. Patch audio only. Voices layered in whisper code. Human expansion curve unacceptable. Strike window optimal. Deniability through proxy conflict. Proxy. Croft. So it was true. Not border confusion. Plan pressure. He found the human ambassador in the waiting chamber, alone, pacing, rehearsing hope that no longer existed. You should leave, Thalek said quietly. She turned, startled. Observer Commander, the vote isn't finished. It finished an hour ago. Her face drained of color. They sanctioned the attacker? She asked. They sanctioned you. Silence landed like impact. That's impossible, she said automatically. Yes, Thalek agreed. And it is still true. He projected the partition grid. 12 elder species dividing human frontier space like salvage rights. Her hands clenched. Why? She whispered. Because, he said, your species builds too fast, and asks who owns the rules. Alarm tones shifted. Security teams mobilizing. You have minutes, Thalek said. They will detain your delegation and freeze outbound comms. She steadied, diplomat mask snapping back into place through shock. They monitor all channels. Yes, except the one they don't know exists, she said, more to herself than him. He pretended not to hear. Professional courtesy. She ran. Through maintenance arteries, not corridors. Through service ladders, not lifts. Humans map buildings like invasion targets. He remembered that now. Paranoid species survived longer than polite ones. He blocked one security drone sweep with a false sensor ping. Treason in small measure, conscience in large one. At a forgotten relay node, she recorded a burst message, tight, coded, lethal in implication. He caught only fragments. Betrayal confirmed. Space partition vote. Authorization. Rising Phoenix. She destroyed the panel after sending. Good tradecraft. Too late to stop. Exactly early enough to matter. Detention cells filled within the hour. Human delegates contained. Official story drafted. Earth sanctioned pending investigation. Truth buried under procedure. Thalek returned to his post and waited for nothing to happen, because empires always believed consequences were slow. He knew humans better. They studied before they struck. 6 hours later, deep perimeter sensors across Council space blinked once. Only once. Most dismissed it as noise. Thalek did not. He opened the anomaly file. Quantum handshake signatures. Thousands synchronized, masked as background radiation. Not arrivals. Preparations to arrive. He felt his throat plates tighten. Security, he asked calmly. How many human warships are registered with the Council? 42, the officer replied. Thalek closed the file. Incorrect, he said softly. In a dark orbit far beyond Pluto, where council charts marked only debris, running lights turned on. One, then hundreds. Predators opened their eyes. Observer Commander Thalek did not go home after shift end. He stayed in the Council Sphere Sensor Analysis Wing, a quiet ring where long-range data was filtered, cleaned, and mostly ignored by politicians who preferred comforting summaries over dangerous details. The anomaly blinked again. Same signature. Same impossible synchronization. He magnified the pattern, layered the waveform, stripped the noise masks. Not noise, a handshake grid. Thousands of nodes acknowledging a single command seed across superluminal spacing. Run origin trace, he told the system. Result, non-council protocol. Classification, unknown structure military. His aide's crest feathers lifted in alarm. Sir, that's a fleet sync. Yes, Thalek said quietly. It is... How large? He stared at the expanding lattice. Larger than anything officially declared. Across the sphere, detention levels were being sealed. Human delegates processed, cataloged, politically erased. The official narrative already propagated across council news bands. Earth under sanction. Security review in progress. Procedure language clean, sterile, false. Thalek opened a private window into colonial attack reports. The ones quietly marked low distribution. The cross strikes had not been border confusion. They were precision raids, comm hubs first, defense grid second, evacuation routes third. Someone had optimized terror, and the council had approved the spreadsheet version of genocide. He felt old. Sir, his aide whispered, outer perimeter buoys just lost lock on 3 objects. Destroyed. No, bypassed. That's worse, Thalek said. He pulled the feed. 3 patrol drones, intact, still transmitting, but reporting empty space where mass shadows clearly distorted starlight. Stealth mass, he murmured. Council stealth. Council stealth leaves a phase bruise, he said. This leaves nothing. Human stealth. Different philosophy. Not hiding signal. Removing interaction. Predator camouflage, not diplomat camouflage. He opened a forbidden file. 15 years old. First human contact assessment. Psychological profile summary. Humans prepare redundantly. Assume betrayal probability above baseline. Build hidden options. At the time, the council had laughed. Now he did not. Far from the sphere, beyond Neptune, the hidden shipyards unfolded from silence. No running broadcasts. No parade formations. Just activation. Dried-out veils peel back. Thermal sinks disengaged. Weapons rails rotated into alignment like muscles remembering movement. Admiral Marcus Chin stood inside Bastion's shadow station, invisible to every council telescope, watching readiness bars climb. Status, he said. Phantom Fleet online. Commander Isha Rao answered. All task groups responding to Phoenix authorization. Numbers, Chin said. 200 heavy hulls. 600 strike cruisers. Carrier groups intact. Drone clouds at 70% load and rising. He nodded once. Grief and fury compressed into discipline. Colonies? Still resisting, she said quietly. Losses high. He closed his eyes for half a second, a luxury measured in heartbeats. Then we do not delay. Back in council space, Thalek intercepted another Elder Channel packet. Panic hidden inside formal tone. Human channels dark but active. Monitoring shows non-standard quantum chatter. Increase Earth blockade posture. They were afraid, but too proud to admit why. He opened a civilian star map overlay. Traffic flows. Trade lanes. Passenger arcs. Then he added the anomaly grid. The hidden handshake network intersected none of them. A separate war geometry layered under peaceful space. Humans had built a second map. The first visible sign appeared near the Croth occupation zone. General Varkesh stood aboard his command barge over the burned human colony of New Cordoba, reviewing suppression schedules when every sensor board went blank. Not jammed. Zeroed. 3 seconds. When they returned, space had changed. Report, he snapped. Mass contacts, close, very close. How close? Inside weapons envelope. Impossible. Nothing could jump that precisely without signature bloom. The forward screen filled with hulls. Angular, scarred, unadorned. Human, dozens, then hundreds, phasing from quantum slip with surgical spacing. No parade lights. No intimidation broadcast. Only position. A destroyer drifted across his bow, close enough to read the painted hull text. HNS Resolve. Open channel. Varkesh barked. It opened before his officer touched the control. A human admiral appeared. Older, eyes carved from consequence. "This is Fleet Admiral Chun," he said evenly. "You are operating inside human sovereign space after unlawful assault. You have 60 minutes to withdraw." Varkesh laughed. Instinct, not confidence. "You have perhaps 40 approved warships total. We have 30 here alone." Chun did not react. "Your hour," he repeated, "has begun." Channel closed. No threats added. That unsettled Varkesh more than shouting would have. Thalek watched the encounter through tapped feeds. Heart rate elevated beyond professional comfort. Council Tactical predicts Croft victory. His aide offered weakly. Council Tactical predicts based on declared inventories. Thalek replied, "War cares about actual ones." He expanded the battle space. Human arrivals were not random. They formed interlocking spheres, fire corridors, denial shells, submarine-packed tactics, but in vacuum. He whispered, almost admiring, "They studied us." On Bastion Shadow Station, Chen issued Phase 2. "Release ghost lanes," he ordered. Across human fleets, stealth buoys ignited, revealing pre-placed mine constellations, drone nests, decoy asteroids, all seeded years earlier along probable invasion vectors. Preparation disguised as paranoia. Paranoia upgraded to advantage. Council High Command finally reacted. Too late. Ordering all Elder fleets to mobilize. Transit queues jammed. Command hierarchies argued priority. Humans did not queue. They arrived. Simultaneously, 12 theaters, 12 council strongholds. Fleets materializing like consequences, not conquest. Neutralization geometry. Shipyards first. Weapon depots second. Command relays third. Civilian grids flag green, bypassed. Precision is more terrifying than rage. In his cell block, the human ambassador heard distant impacts through station structure, not explosions, control breaching charges. She smiled for the first time since arrest. "They came," she whispered. A guard asked, "Who?" She met his eyes. "The fleet you didn't count." Thalek closed his console and stood very still. History had just pivoted, not because of a vote, because of preparation. "Sir," his aide asked quietly, "what happens now?" He answered without looking away from the tactical bloom spreading across the map. "Now," he said, "the Council learns the difference between power and readiness." General Varkesh of the Croth Empire had fought in 19 campaigns and crushed 7 rebellions. He had broken planetary defenses, starred resistance networks, and forced 3 species into permanent tribute. He had never seen a fleet hold fire like this. The human ships surrounding his formation did not posture. They did not broadcast threats. They did not even lock weapons in the visible spectrum. They simply waited. Status. Varkesh demanded. Human vessels holding distance, but maneuvering continuously. His tactical officer replied, "Their vectors are irregular." Define irregular. They are not using standard intercept geometry. It's like they are predicting where we will aim, not where we are. Varkesh clicked his mandibles in irritation. "All ships. Target nearest human cruiser. Fire on my mark." 30 Croft warships aligned. Energy lances charged. Mark. The void lit with plasma beams. Every shot missed. Not barely, completely. Human ships shifted micro-angles seconds before firing solutions resolved, like they had already seen the math. "Impossible," the tactical officer whispered. "No," Varkesh growled. "Pre-computation." But even pre-computation needed reaction lag. Humans showed none. Across the battle space, Admiral Chen watched the engagement clock tick down. Enemy firing doctrine unchanged. Commander Rao reported, "They're still using honor pattern targeting." "Of course they are," Chin said. They think war is symmetrical. He tapped the order. Begin kinetic phase. Varkesh never saw the first strike. No energy bloom. No missile trail. No warning. Just impact. A Croth cruiser split open mid-hull as a relativistic slug punched through shields, armor, and command deck in one straight line. 2 seconds later, the ship exploded. What weapon was that? The sensor officer choked. No energy trace. Another cruiser died. Then another, holes appearing through them like invisible spears. Mass drivers, someone shouted. Those are banned, another cried. Varkesh roared. By council law, not by physics. Shields retuned. Too slow, too late. Human rail batteries had already shifted frequencies, firing staggered mass profiles so no single shield adaptation could catch up. Doctrine broken in 30 seconds. Observer Commander Thalek watched through hijacked feeds, stunned despite expecting escalation. Council shields optimized for elegance, he murmured. His aide looked confused. Elegance loses to brutality, Thalek said. Every time. Human destroyers advanced, not in lines, in packs, crossing each other's firing arcs deliberately. Why would they block their own shots? The aide asked. They aren't, Thalek replied. They're sharing them. Quantum link targeting. Every ship firing with every other ship's sensor eyes. Fleet as organism, not formation, metabolism. Varkesh ordered countermissiles. Swarm launch saturation pattern. Thousands of smart missiles flooded space. Human response was strange. They did not shoot most of them. They touched them. Short-range laser flickers, microbursts, nudging trajectories by fractions. Missiles collided with each other. Chain reactions blooming far from human hulls. Collision induction. Varkesh breathed. Weaponized geometry. Who fights like that? A species raised on air combat and submarine warfare. If Thalek had to guess. Phase 3, Chin said quietly. Stealth buoys woke. The empty space behind the Croft formation exploded into objects, dormant mind spheres, camouflaged as dust clusters for years. They ignited together. Not nuclear, directional, shield-shearing pulses. Croft defensive envelopes flickered, failed, and kinetic fire resumed. Surgery after anesthesia. Sir, we're being bracketed. Varkesh's helm cried. Human ships weren't chasing. They were herding, nudging the Croft fleet into a pre-mine corridor. Predation through positioning. Break out, Varkesh ordered. Vectors blocked more mines. Of course there were. Humans had mapped likely retreat paths first. On the human carrier Indomitable, Captain Lien Okoye watched casualty boards update, green and red. Drone losses acceptable, her exo said. Crew losses? She asked. Minimal. She nodded, but did not smile. Remember, she told the bridge quietly, every green light is someone alive. Keep it that way. Human doctrine. Minimize your own dead, and there's a possible, but finish the mission regardless. Cold mercy. Council reinforcements finally translated in a relief armada of 80 ships. They arrived inside a human deception shell. False sensor echoes, projected fleet ghosts, pulled them off vector. Half the armada opened fire on holographic targets. The other half received rail strikes from behind. Deception warfare, Thalek said softly. They're fighting minds, not ships. Council command channels dissolved into chaos. Orders contradicted. Ranks bypassed. Humans injected false command packets. Perfectly formatted. Perfectly timed. Council fleets trusted hierarchy. Humans exploited it. Varkesh's flagship lost propulsion. He watched human ships pass by without finishing it. Why spare him? A channel opened. Admiral Chin again. You are combat ineffective, Chin said calmly. Transmit surrender, and we will extract your wounded. Varkesh stared in disbelief. After the slaughter, you offer mercy? Yes. Why? Because we are ending your ability to fight, not your right to live. Channel closed. Varkesh felt something unfamiliar. Respect, edged with terror. He transmitted surrender. Across 12 theaters, similar scenes unfolded. Shipyard disabled, not cities. Weapons grids shattered, not hospitals. Military burned, civilians bypassed. Precision repeated becomes policy. Policy becomes identity. In the detention block, the human ambassador heard the distant vibration change. Not explosions, controlled demolitions, extraction charges. Right on schedule. She looked at the alien guard. "You should sit," she advised gently. "The door is about to stop existing." It did. Clean cut. Black armored human operators flowed in like a rehearsed answer. "Ambassador, we're taking you home." She almost laughed. About time. Thalek ended his recording with a single line. The council studied how to win wars. Humans studied how wars actually work. His aide asked, "Who wins now?" Thalek watched another council battle group, disarmed in under 4 minutes. "The species," he said quietly, "that prepared for betrayal on day 1. The first Grand Armada had never been deployed in full. For 10,000 years it existed as a symbol, a deterrent, a promise carved into doctrine. 2,000 capital warships from the elder species, unified command lattice, layered shield harmonics, overlapping fire grids. It was designed to end wars in a single engagement. Now it was being assembled in panic. Observer Commander Thalek watched the mustering field from a classified relay hub. Feeds layered across his vision. Council leadership frames flickered beside fleet telemetry. Proud voices trying to sound certain, while defeat reports stacked behind them. They overextended. High Counselor Bratt declared, "Human forces are dispersed across multiple strikes. We concentrate, we crush, we restore order. Restore order." Empires always use repair words for violence. Thalek muted the speech audio and watched the numbers instead. Human fleet clusters were not dispersed. They were distributed. Different concept. Dangerous difference. "Sir," his aide said softly, "human ships are withdrawing from 3 sectors. "Are they?" Thalek asked. Telemetry showed retreat vectors, but energy signatures were wrong. Too smooth, too synchronized. "That's not retreat," he said. "That's spacing." "For what?" "For a larger battlefield." At the Armada staging volume, Admiral Kesha the Torvin took command, veteran of suppression wars, believer in overwhelming force. Formation Doctrine Alpha Crown. He ordered layered spheres, no gaps, no heroics. 2,000 ships nested into defensive geometry, beautiful, mathematically optimal, doctrinally perfect, and completely predictable. "Human forces detected?" he asked. "Minimal, Admiral. Scattered elements only." He allowed himself satisfaction. "They're running." His sensor chief hesitated. "Sir, they're running in patterns." "Everything runs in patterns," Kesher snapped. "Yes, sir, but these patterns form corridors." He did not like the word, but dismissed the discomfort. 40 light minutes away, Admiral Chen watched the crown formation complete. Council doctrine unchanged. Commander Rao confirmed. "Of course," Chen said. "Institutions update slower than graveyards." "Kill box ready," Tactical added. "Not kill," Chen corrected quietly. "Disarm." He gave the signal. The empty corridors the human ships had fled through woke up. Millions of dormant objects activated. Not mines, not missiles. Field projectors. Space itself thickened. Armada ships hit invisible drag, like flying through deep fluid. Inertia spike. Torvin Helms cried. Velocity collapse. "It's not a weapon," Rao said in awe. "They changed local physics coefficients." "Temporary," Chin said. "Just enough." Human fleets translated in, not around, between arriving inside the slow geometry. Close. Too close for elegant warfare. Perfect for ugly warfare. Kesher roared orders. Full power. Break drag field. Engines overloading. Human ships opened fire, not at hulls, at shield emitters, sensor spines, command relays. Precision crippling. 1,000 cuts beats one killing blow when your goal is paralysis. Council return fire scattered. Predictive models broken by altered inertia. "You changed the battlefield," Thalek whispered, watching. "Yes," he answered himself. "That's the move they never simulate." Human strike packs move through the Armada like surgeons through anatomy. Rail strikes on engine bells. Micro drones into shield vents. Boarding torpedoes into command decks. Not glorious. Effective. Why aren't they finishing ships? Thalec's aide asked. Because dead ships teach nothing, Thalec said. Disabled ones teach fear. Armada casualty boards climbed, not destroyed, neutralized. Operationally identical. Politically devastating. Kesha's command sphere lost outer ring control. Sub-admirals fought isolated. Doctrine requiring central timing that no longer existed. Council fleets fought like orchestras. Humans fought like jazz. Then the human deception layer triggered. False starflare alerts. Fake reinforcement signals. Spoof surrender calls. Half a sector of Armada ships redeployed against ghosts, opening real gaps. Human carriers slid through those gaps and deployed strike clouds into logistics ships, the least offended targets. Fuel gone equals fleet gone. War is math, not honor. Armada cohesion below 40%, Rao reported. Chin nodded once. All for surrender windows. You think they'll take them? Enough will. Channels opened across the battle space. You are disabled. Power down. Medical extraction available. Some did. Some fought on. Human fire adapted accordingly. High Counselor Brath watched the disaster unfold live. This is impossible, he whispered. His younger advisor answered. No, this is studied. What do you mean? They studied how we fight. We never studied how they do. Desperation unlocked forbidden drawers. The stellar converter, Brath said. The room went cold. A Starkill device, ancient, unthinkable, absolute. It was built as deterrent, someone said weakly. So was the Armada. Brath snapped. Deploy it. Votes happened fast when fear replaced pride. Authorization passed. Thalec saw the launch order before it was scrubbed from public record. He felt physically ill. They're going to burn a star, he said. His aide stared. Earth's. Yes. Will it work? He watched human fleets dismantle the most powerful armada in history in under an hour. No, Thalec said quietly, but they're going to try. At the edge of the Oort cloud, the converter convoy formed, 300 escort ships around a moon-sized weapon. Admiral Tresh of the Quinn took command. Human forces degraded. He declared confidently, We finished this. His censor officer frowned. Sir, human ships are retreating again. Good. Same corridor patterns. Tresh hesitated, just for a moment, then pride overruled pattern recognition. Advance! Admiral Chin watched the convoy enter the pre-seated volume. Net ready, he asked. Net ready. Trigger on full entry. Thalec closed his log with a final line before the next battle began. When empires lose certainty, they reach for apocalypse. The stellar converter convoy moved with the confidence of something that believed itself inevitable. 300 escort warships formed a rotating defense lattice around the device, a construct the size of a small moon wrapped in containment rings and exotic matter injectors. Its purpose was simple and unforgivable. Turn a star unstable. Force supernova. Erase a system. Observer Commander Thalec watched the classified convoy feed through a back channel he should not have possessed anymore. Authorization string verified. His aide whispered. They really approved it. Yes, Thalec said hollowly. Fear makes ancient weapons feel reasonable. Target confirmed? So, the aide's feathers flattened. That's not war, that's species murder. Empires, Thalec replied. Rename murder when they sign it. Convoy Admiral Tresh of Quinn stood tall on his command dais. Crest fins illuminated in command blue. Maintain sphere density, he ordered. No pursuit deviations. Ignore human skirmishers. Human vessels detected. Outer range, Tactical said. Small contacts. Fast. Scattered. Running again, one officer scoffed. But Tresh narrowed his eyes. Vector map. Lines drew themselves. Corridors. Again, he remembered the Armada disaster brief. Corridor manipulation. Battlefield shaping. Are we being channeled? He asked quietly. Negative confirmation, Tactical replied. Probability inconclusive. Which meant yes. But momentum and mission weight overruled doubt. Advance! He ordered anyway. From Bastion's shadow station, Admiral Chen watched the convoy slide, exactly where predicted. Net integrity, he asked. Commander Rao answered. 98% node readiness. They never found the deep buoys. They never looked for infrastructure, Chen said. Only ships. Converter charge state rising, she added. They're serious. I know. He keyed, fleet-wide. Phase black glass. No cheering, no speeches, just acknowledgments. Professional war is quiet. The first detonations were invisible. Field inversion nodes flipped polarity across a 1,000,000-kilometer shell. Space stiffened and fractured into layered shear planes. Convoy shield screamed. Metric turbulence. Quinn engineers shouted. Shield math invalid. Stabilize. Cannot. Constant shifting. Human warfare again. Not weapon versus shield. Equation versus assumption. Then the minds woke. Not proximity minds. Patience minds, dormant for years, power signatures indistinguishable from cold rock. They ignited in timed waves, directional, overlapping, shield-peeling bursts instead of brute explosions. Escort ships lost offensive envelopes like skins burning off. Return fire. Tresh roared. There are too many, because humans didn't deploy mines. They deployed ecosystems. Thalek watched in stunned admiration. They planted a battlefield, he murmured. Years ago, his aide realized, yes, who prepares like that? The species that expects betrayal, Thalek answered. Human ghost frigates decloaked. Dozens and hundreds, drone-crewed, suicide vectors locked. Not at hull centers. At shield projectors and engine throats. Point defense. Quinn tactical cried. Too late. Drone impacts blinded, not destroyed. Follow-up rail fire disabled. Layered lethality. Each step enabling the next. Admiral Tresh felt control slipping. Not dramatically, systematically. Converter status, he demanded. Charging at 40%, but containment stress rising. Field turbulence interfering. Good, Chen thought when he read that feed. Make the weapon fight physics before it fights us. Human capital ships did not close yet. They orbited the chaos, shepherding, adjusting, tightening the trap geometry. Predators outside stampede radius. Why aren't they finishing us? A Quinn officer shouted. Because mission priority wasn't you. It was a device. Boarding lances struck next. Magnetic spears punched into the converter hull, not explosive anchoring. Foreign objects attached. Cut them off. They're burrowing. Human cutter pods drilled into maintenance layers, deploying sabotage AIs that rewrote safety locks into failure locks. Converter charge rate spiked, then destabilized. Admiral, it's going critical. Tresh's blood chilled. Emergency vent. Vents not responding. Manual override. Controls rewritten. Chen spoke on open convoy channel for the first time. Admiral Tresh, he said calmly, power down escorts and evacuate. We are destroying the device. You cannot. Tresh snarled. It is shielded against. A human rail strike punched through a newly exposed seam. Not guesswork. Telemetry-guided surgery. Converter rings began to melt. Some escort captains broke formation to flee. Others stayed, honor bound, and died for a weapon already lost. Doctrine kills as surely as guns. Thalek recorded softly. They are not fighting the fleet. They are deleting the strategy. Human heavy cruisers finally closed, forming a containment cage, projecting counter-shear fields so the converter's failure wouldn't ripple into the star. Even now, they're minimizing collateral, the aide whispered. Yes, Thalek said. That's the difference between wrath and control. Final human strike sequence launched. Synchronized kinetic lances, converging on the converter core. Impact. No cinematic blast. Just structural surrender. The moon weapon collapsing into molten fragments and cooling slag. The most feared device in Council history died without ever firing. Silence filled the battle space. Then Chen transmitted galaxy-wide. You attempted stellar genocide. This weapon is gone. Your capacity for extinction warfare ends today. No triumph, only verdict. Tresh opened a broken channel. "Why spare our ships?" he asked hoarsely. "Because," Chin answered, "dead enemies learn nothing. Disarmed ones change policy." Channel closed. Across council worlds, panic turned to something worse. Understanding. They could not outgun humanity. They could not outplan humanity. They could not outprepare humanity. Thalek ended the log entry with shaking hands. The moment a superweapon fails is the moment an empire realizes is mortal. He looked at the spreading surrender petitions already queuing. "Is the war over?" his aide asked. Thalek watched human fleets pivot toward council core worlds, not cities, shipyards. "No," he said quietly. "Now the disarmament begins." The emergency chamber was smaller than the old one. The original Galactic Council Hall, symbol of 10,000 years of authority, still smoldered from the human extraction raid months earlier. Repairs were unfinished, funding frozen, pride wounded beyond budget approval. So the surrender session met in a provisional ring, functional, undecorated, humbling. Observer Commander Thalek stood along the outer tier, no longer pretending neutrality. History had already chosen sides, truth versus narrative. High Counselor Brath entered slowly. He looked older than his species biology allowed. Defeat accelerates age across all forms of flesh. "Begin record," Brath ordered. The chamber hollow activated, broadcasting on open galactic band. Transparency was no longer virtue. It was survival theater. "To the government of Earth," Brath began, voice steady only by force, "the Galactic Council acknowledges total military defeat. We offer unconditional surrender and request ceasefire terms. No spin, no conditions, no dignity clauses." That alone told Thalek how deep the collapse ran. Around the ring, delegates avoided eye contact, some ashamed, some relieved, some calculating post-council futures. "Do you think they'll accept?" Thalek's aide whispered. "No," Thalek said quietly. "How can you be sure?" "Because humans don't stop at victory. They stop at safety." The reply arrived 3 hours later, exactly long enough to prove deliberation, not emotion. Admiral Marcus Chin appeared, not in dress uniform, in operational black. Fatigue lines visible, grief not hidden. Beside him stood the rescued human ambassador, alive, unbowed, transformed by fire. Chin spoke plainly. "Surrender is normally accepted from honorable enemies." The chamber stiffened. "You sanction proxy attacks on our civilians," he continued. "You partition our space in secret. You authorize a starkill weapon. That is not honorable war." Brath swallowed. "We admit wrongdoing." "Admission is not repair," Chin replied. Murmurs spread, panic under protocol. "What are your terms?" Brath asked. Chin answered with a list. "Not vengeance. Architecture. All council military shipyards will be dismantled under human supervision." Shock rippled. "All weapons factories converted to civilian industry." More shock. "All capital warships decommissioned or scrapped." Some delegates protested aloud. Chun continued over them. "No civilian bombardment. No occupation governments. No tribute. Only disarmament." Thalek exhaled softly. "Not conquest. Control of future threat capacity. Textbook long-term security logic. And if we refuse," a minor warlord delegate demanded recklessly. Chun looked at him, not angry, not loud. "Then we continue," he said. Silence landed like gravity, because everyone had seen what continue meant. Channel closed. Debate exploded. "They want to erase our sovereignty. They want to erase your weapons," Thalek muttered. "Same thing," the delegate snapped. "No," Thalek said calmly. "One is ego. One is survival." Votes followed, fast, frightened, decisive. Unconditional acceptance passed with 92% support. Empires collapse quicker than they rise. But acceptance did not end operations. Human fleets did not withdraw. They pivoted, systematically. Shipyard worlds first. Thalek watched the campaign map redraw. Not invasion arrows, dismantle markers. Target tags read. Orbital forge arrays. War AI core nodes. Mass driver factories. Fleet logistics hubs. Civilian grids flagged green. Exclusion zones respected with machine precision. Why don't they occupy? The aide asked. Occupation breeds insurgency, Thalek replied. Disarmament breeds compliance. At Torvin Prime, heart of the former council, orbital ship rings spanning continents were cut apart by human cutting beams and tractor shears. No cities touched, just the rings. 15,000 years of dominance, reduced to scrap spirals falling harmlessly into controlled burn trajectories. High Counselor Brath watched from the surface balcony. No bombs, he whispered. No need, his advisor replied. They are removing our future wars instead. On a human command deck, Captain Okoye reviewed strike approvals. Confirm again. Civilian power grids outside demolition radius, she ordered. Confirmed. Food distribution lanes? Protected. She nodded. Proceed. Human warfare, ruthless target selection, restrained collateral philosophy, a combination that terrified traditional empires. Not every council faction complied. A breakaway war cell launched guerrilla strikes against a human dismantlement team near a weapons moon. Human response was immediate, overwhelming, precise. Only the attackers died. Facility dismantled anyway. Lesson reinforced. Resistance without logistics is suicide. Thalek recorded daily summaries for a historical archive. Human victory doctrine is not destruction. It is prevention. His aide asked, Do you think they planned this disarmament phase before the war started? Thalek didn't hesitate. Yes. How? Because they built tools for it. The human ambassador addressed the provisional chamber next. Not with threats, with memory. We came to you in peace, she said. We followed your laws. We trusted your charters. You answered with petition and fire. No raised voice, which made it worse. We will not rule you, she continued, but we will not be prey again. Many delegates lowered their gaze. Shame is a stronger stabilizer than fear when it arrives too late. New documents circulated, not treaties. Frameworks. Free species accord draft. No elder species privileges. No secret petition councils. One species, one vote. Automatic joint response to civilian attacks. And one bold clause. Genocide authorization equals species-level disarmament. Thalek almost smiled. Policy born from consequence tends to last. His aide asked quietly, Is this the end of the council? Thalek watched the old banners being removed from chamber walls, replaced with neutral emblems. Yes, he said. What replaces it? Accountability, Thalek answered. In Earth orbit, Chin stood alone for a moment between briefings. Commander Rao approached carefully. They accepted all terms, she said. He nodded, no triumph. Good. War's effectively over. No, Chin replied softly. Threat is... Difference noted. Thalek closed Chapter 6 record with a final line. Some wars end with surrender. The important ones end with the removal of the reason they began. The wars ended quietly. No grand signing ceremony. No victory parades across conquered capitals. No occupation banners raised over alien skies. Just a gradual disappearance of warship silhouettes from orbit. Observer Commander Thalek found that more unsettling than any explosion. He stood in the traffic observatory ring of the newly renamed Unity Station, once Convergence Prime, watching civilian shipping lanes bloom, where military patrol spheres once overlapped. Trade convoys, medical barges, reconstruction fleets, and everywhere, human escort signatures. Not dominant. Present. Always present. Traffic incidents down 73%. His aide reported. Piracy nearly gone. Piracy depends on weak response windows, Thalek said. Humans remove the windows. Across former council space, dismantlement zones have become rebuild zones. Human engineering groups, escorted by lightly armed defense cutters, help convert weapons yards into infrastructure yards. Railgun foundries now manufactured atmospheric processors. Missile plants produce fusion grid components. The irony was not lost on anyone. They're fixing the economies they broke. A delegate complained in session. They broke the war economies, Thalek corrected, not the civilian ones. Fear did not vanish. It matured. Species no longer asked, Can humans win wars? They asked, What triggers human intervention? That question changed behavior faster than treaties ever had. Border conflicts dropped. Proxy raids vanished. False flag operations collapsed. Too risky under human forensic doctrine. War had not been outlawed. It had been made unprofitable. A new phrase spread through diplomatic channels. Don't escalate. The humans will audit it. Audit, not attack. Language evolves around power. Thalek reviewed incident logs from the past quarter. 3 attempted planetary seizures. All stopped not by invasion, but by arrival. Human rapid groups translated in disabled aggressive fleets. Restored borders left within hours. No annexations. No speeches. Just enforcement. Is that policing? His aide asked. No, Thalek said thoughtfully. It's consequence delivery. Not everyone approved. A sovereignty bloc formed. Species who argued that dependence on human enforcement was a hidden empire. They control outcomes, one senator declared. That is rule by another name. Thalek requested speaking time. Control of outcomes through transparent rules is not empire, he said calmly. It is governance. You object because you cannot exploit loopholes anymore. The motion to condemn human intervention failed by wide margin. Most species preferred safety over theoretical autonomy. History always shows that ratio. Human fleets themselves had changed posture, gone with the massive assault formations. In their place, distributed response groups, corridor patrol ships, sensor pickets, disaster craft. War-ready but peace-shaped. Why keep so much military after victory? The aide asked. Because, Thalek answered, they remember being surprised. He traveled to a former Croft fortress world during conversion operations. Orbital cannon rings were being disassembled by human and Croft crews working side by side. A Croft engineer spoke to him privately. We hated them, she admitted. Now they are teaching us how to build shielded weather grids. Does that erase the war? Thalek asked. No, she said, but it changes the future. The human ambassador, now High Commissioner, addressed the assembly quarterly. Never long, never dramatic, always precise. We are not guardians, she repeated each session. We are responders. Peace remains your responsibility. Some believed her, some didn't. All adjusted behavior, anyway. Economically, a strange shift emerged. Insurance markets recalibrated around one variable. Human response time. Systems inside fast response radius boomed. Outside it, stagnated. Dependence had a price and a benefit curve. Soft power gravity. Thalek recorded. Security attracts civilization mass. Culturally, humans became myth faster than fact. On some worlds, avenging angels. On others, cold judges. On a few, necessary monsters. Reality was more boring and more effective. They were engineers with fleets. A classified briefing reached Thalek. Flag cross-species priority. Deep-range sensors detected unknown megastructural activity beyond mapped spiral arms. Physics distortions. Star-core manipulation signatures. Pre-council archives named such entities only once. Architect-class civilizations. His aide looked alarmed. If something stronger than humans appears, Thalek finished the thought, then we will be glad humans exist. Perspective is the final stage of fear. He requested a private channel with Admiral Chun, now semi-retired but still strategic lead. Do you expect a larger threat? Thalek asked. Chun answered without hesitation. Yes. How long? Always, Chun said. That's why we maintain. Not dominate. Maintain. The word again. Assembly reforms finalized. The old council charter was dissolved. The free species accord ratified. No permanent ruling species. Rotating oversight councils. Open audit war laws. And one enforcement clause. Automatic joint action led by the most capable responder. Everyone knew who that meant. They signed anyway. At the memorial wall inside Unity Station, names from all sides were etched together, not segregated. Children from multiple species visited on field tours now. War taught as warning, not glory. Thalek watched a young Torvin student read the inscription aloud. Trust is cheaper than victory. He approved of the curriculum. His aide asked one last question that cycle. Sir, Are humans the strongest species now? Thalek considered the corridor patrols, the dismantled armadas, the converted factories, the prevented wars. No, he said, they are the most prepared species. Is that better? Yes, Thalek replied. It lasts longer. He closed the chapter record. Empires rule through dominance. Humans rule outcomes through readiness. The galaxy adjusted accordingly. The signal did not arrive through communication channels. It arrived through physics. Observer Commander Thalek first saw it as an error report buried under routine stellar telemetry, flagged by 3 independent observatories across different species. Star drift irregularity, not movement, hesitation, as if gravity paused, then corrected itself. Sensor glitch? His aide suggested. 3 networks don't glitch identically, Thalek replied. He overlaid the data. The hesitation formed a pattern, a repeating interval, a clock. Deep-range instruments recalibrated automatically, then again, then switched into anomaly mode without being ordered. That alone was unprecedented. Sir, the aide said quietly, the sensors are adapting themselves. Not adapting, Thalek said. Recognizing. He didn't like that word. Recognition implies prior encounter. Unity Station convened an emergency science session, not military, not political, purely analytical. Astrophysicists, field mathematicians, quantum topologists. The models converged disturbingly fast. This is not natural, said the Valari stellar scholar. This is not weapon activity, said the machine combined node. This is infrastructure, said the human liaison. All eyes turned. Infrastructure? Thalek repeated. The human analyst nodded. Macro-scale maintenance, signaling. Maintenance of what? Someone asked. Stars, the human said. Silence followed, heavy and resistant. Archive pre-council fragments were opened. Data once dismissed as myth-layer noise. References to entities labeled only in warning glyphs. Architects, not conquerors, not empires. Builders operating on stellar and galactic structural levels. Most scholars had categorized them as metaphor. Now the math matched. Metaphor rarely produces telemetry. Trajectory? Thalek asked. Not moving. The machine combined said. Revealing. The signal was not traveling. It was unfolding, like a curtain pulled back across deeper space. Something had always been there, hidden by limits of perception, and now perception upgraded. Human response time was immediate. Too immediate to be improvised. A classified alert network activated across human fleets. Priority black. Maintenance doctrine, not war doctrine. Thalek noticed that difference. Why maintenance channels? He asked the human liaison. Because if this is what we think, she said, shooting is irrelevant. He requested direct contact with Admiral Chun. Granted. Do you recognize this pattern? Thalek asked without preface. Yes, Chun said. That answer chilled him more than denial would have. How? We've been tracking it for 22 years. Thalek stared. Before the war? Before the council betrayal. Chin corrected gently. Not before human paranoia. Chin shared a restricted overlay. Hidden human deep observatories. Far beyond Pluto, beyond Oort, beyond mapped gravitational charts. They had been watching background star behavior, like cardiologists reading a heartbeat. We thought it was theoretical, Chin said, until it wasn't. What is it? Thalek pressed. Someone tuning the galaxy, Chin replied. The next event proved it. A dead star, cataloged for 9 million years, emitted a controlled ignition flare, not chaotic fusion. Stage restart. The assembly chamber watched the live feed in stunned silence. Stars do not reboot, unless serviced. Panic rose, quickly, loudly. Super weapon, one delegate shouted. Reality manipulation attack, cried another. Chin interrupted via open channel. If it were an attack, we'd already be gone. That settled nothing, but it quieted hysteria enough for thought. Mathematical reconstruction showed the ignition was efficient. No wasted energy. No gravitational shockwave. No radiation spike beyond control thresholds. Whoever did it valued precision. Precision implies engineering. Engineering implies purpose. Why reveal now? Thalek asked. Chin answered with disturbing calm. Because we made enough noise. The war? The war, Chin said, and the stellar converter attempt. Weapons that threaten stars attract attention from things that maintain stars. 'Cause meet's caretaker. Are they hostile? Thalek asked. Unknown, Chin replied, but they are not careless. Is that comforting? It's better than careless and hostile, Chin said. Human fleets change posture again, not combat nets. Observation grids. Sensor sails deployed. Long baseline arrays opened. They were measuring, not mobilizing. Preparation had layers. A second signal phase began, not star ignition. Coordinate mapping, rewriting of gravitational tolerances across corridor lanes. Unity Station traffic computers updated automatically to accommodate it. Did we just receive infrastructure permissions? The aide asked. Yes, Thalek said slowly. From who? From whoever owns a deeper layer. Cultural reaction fractured across species. Some declared the architects divine. Some declared them myth-proven. Some declared them existential threat. Humans declared them external stakeholders. Language again revealing mindset. The human ambassador addressed the assembly. We believe these entities intervene when stellar stability is threatened at scale. That threshold was crossed recently. No one needed clarification, which event she meant. The room remembered a converter. Shame echoes longer than explosions. Thalek recorded. We fear human power. We forgot the universe contains higher authorities. Perspective upgrade complete. A final anomaly appeared, close, sudden, undeniable. A structure unfolded near the edge of map space, not built, expressed, like geometry deciding to exist. Size, planetary. Mass, irrelevant. Energy, controlled infinity. Human channels labeled it instantly. Architect node. How do you already have a label? Thalek asked Chen. Because, Chen answered quietly, we hope we were wrong. The node transmitted one message, not in language, in constants. Rewritten universal ratios, a greeting only physicists could read. Translation took 6 minutes. Meaning took 1. Infrastructure stable. Reviewing local civilization. Thalek sat back slowly. We're being audited, his aide whispered. Yes, Thalek said, by reality engineers. He closed the chapter record. The galaxy just discovered it is not the highest level of management. The architect node did not move. Movement would have made it a ship. It was not a ship. It was a statement. A geometric presence suspended beyond the outer gravity shell. Angles folding into angles. Surfaces behaving like equations rather than matter. Sensors could not decide its temperature, mass, or boundary. Every reading returned a range that included yes. Observer Commander Thalek watched from Unity Station's deep array chamber as 73 species pointed their best instruments at something none of them could classify. It violates 3 models, the machine combined analyst said. Only 3? Thalek asked quietly. 3 we are confident enough to admit, the machine replied. No weapons charged. No fleets advanced. For the first time in recorded galactic history, restraint was unanimous. Has it targeted anything? Thalek asked. Not targeted. His aide said, surveying. How do you know the difference? Because targeting narrows. This widens. He hated how correct that sounded. The node transmitted again, not sound, not symbols. Parameter shifts in background radiation constants, modulated like grammar. Human science teams translated fastest, not because they were smarter, because they had already built software expecting this. Preparation again. Message core rendered into language. Stellar maintenance region. Local conflict threshold exceeded. Review triggered. The assembly chamber absorbed the implication. The war had rung a cosmic alarm. Will they judge us? A delegate asked. Admiral Chin answered on open channel. They already are. No drama, just accuracy. A directed scan passed through inhabited systems, not harmful, but intimate, like reality itself running diagnostics. Stars, lanes, power grids, weapon scars. When it passed Earth, the signal paused. Not long, but measurably. The room noticed. Why linger there? Thalek asked. Chin didn't dodge. Because we've been repairing more than we've been breaking. Explain. We stabilized 3 failing stars, rebuilt 2 biospheres, and prevented a 4th supernova. Thalek almost smiled. Your resume is showing. The node transmitted a classification burst. Tag species identifiers. Functional roles, not political, operational. Most civilizations received. Local actor, some received. Regional variable, humanity received. Maintainer class, probationary. The chamber erupted. Maintainer? Probationary? What does that mean? Thalek muted the noise and focused on Chun. Is that good? He asked privately. Chun exhaled slowly. Yes. And probationary? That means we're being watched, not erased. A Valari philosopher whispered, they rank species by behavior, not power. Of course they do, Thalek replied. That's how engineers think. A data annex followed. Examples of maintainer behavior markers. Infrastructure repair under conflict. Star-level hazard mitigation. Restraint and victory. Non-extractive dominance. Distributed defense doctrine. The list read like a human after-action report. History written as qualification criteria. Other maintainers? Thalek asked. Rare. The human science lead replied. Extinct or ascended categories mostly. Ascended. Graduated from local matter constraints. He decided not to ask further. Some answers reduced sleep quality. A faction delegate protested loudly. Humans manipulated this perception. They staged mercy to gain cosmic approval. Chin responded before Thalek could. No, Chin said evenly. We staged survival. Silence followed, because motive mattered less than measurable outcome, and the node measured outcomes. The architect node shifted configuration, not position, topology, like a new equation rotating into solvable form. A focus channel opened. Destination, human custody authority, a term no one outside classified layers had heard before today. Thalek raised an eyebrow. You have a department for this? Chin nodded once. Since year 3 of council membership. Of course they did. The exchange lasted 11 seconds. Humans later released a summary publicly. Another maintainer behavior marker. Transparent reporting upward and outward. Architect query. Why intervene in stellar risk events? Human response. Because we live here. Architect response. Acceptable foundation. The aide blinked. That's it. That's enough. Thalek said softly. Engineers respect local ownership. A new designation followed. Humanity, maintainer class, active observation, conditional trust. Conditional trust from reality engineers. Highest rating issued in this region of space. Ever. Panic transformed into recalculation across the assembly. Policy proposals shifted overnight. Ban on star-level weapons permanent. Corridor safety standards upgraded. Joint repair fleets funded. War damage restoration mandatory. Humans did not demand these laws. The architect classification did. Authority from above beats argument below. Thalek recorded. Power enforces obedience. Legitimacy enforces imitation. The galaxy had just received legitimacy calibration. A minor delegate asked the human ambassador, "Will you rule now that you are recognized?" She shook her head. "Maintainers don't rule systems," she said. "They keep them from collapsing." Branding at civilizational scale. Effective. The no began phase fade, not departure. Reduce interaction. Background presence again. Like a supervisor stepping out of a room, but not the building. Before attenuation completed, one final tag propagated. Maintainer failure threshold exists. No value given. Just a warning. Probation is never permanent. Can humans fail the classification? The aide asked. Yes, Thalek said. How? By becoming what they defeated. He saved that line for the archive header. Chen's last message to the assembly, that cycle was short. We passed the first audit, he said. Let's not need a second. No applause followed. Only agreement. Different, stronger, quieter. Thalek closed Chapter 9 record. The galaxy feared humans would become conquerors. Reality instead labeled them caretakers, with conditions. He leaned back and finally allowed himself relief. Not safety. Relief. Different, but welcome. 50 standard years passed without a galactic war. Not a border war. Not a proxy raid. Not a sterilization strike. Not a council betrayal. For most of recorded history, that would have been statistically impossible. Observer Archivist Thalek, retired from command, elevated to historical custodian. Finalized a long piece record inside Unity Station's memory vault. He had outlived the council, outlived the armada, outlived the fear. What remained was maintenance. He smiled at the word. The galaxy looked different now. Not politically, structurally. Transit corridors were stabilized by shared grav anchors. Stellar flare prediction nets ring volatile suns. Warship production quotas were capped by accord law and verified by open audit. And at the center of every enforcement lattice sat one constant variable. Human rapid response groups. Not everywhere, but always close enough. Cadets toured the memorial hall, where names from the betrayal war were etched without species separation. Young minds learned one lesson first. Escalation invites auditors. Some meant humans. The wiser ones meant architects. Both were correct. Thalek dictated his final comparative thesis. The Council enforced order through superiority. Humanity enforced stability through readiness. The architects enforced reality through indifference. Hierarchy clarified. Ego dissolved. Policy improved. Human fleets had evolved again. No dreadnought walls. No intimidation formations. Instead, lattice patrol craft, repair carriers, hazard response platforms, mobile shipyards. Tools first, weapons second. You redesigned your Navy into an emergency service, Thalek told Admiral Rao, Chen's successor, during an interview. She nodded. War is just system failure at scale. Most species say war is politics. Most species rebuild slowly, she replied. Point taken. The maintainer probation audits occurred every decade. Invisible to most, obvious to those who knew what to measure. Star stability indices. Conflict escalation curves. Weapon yield ceilings. Civilian casualty ratios. Metrics, not speeches. Human reports were always early. Always overdocumented. Architect responses were always short. Acceptable continuation. The most valued 2 words in galactic governance. A generation had grown up that never saw a council warship blockade a world. They found old footage unbelievable. Why didn't you just call the maintainers? Children asked during lectures. Thalek answered carefully. Because they weren't maintainers yet. They were becoming them. Process matters more than titles. Not all outcomes were perfect. There were conflicts, resource disputes, ideological fractures. But wars now ended in hours, not years, because escalation triggers summon intervention automatically. Humans called it the firebreak doctrine. Stop the blaze before it becomes climate. Thalek visited Earth once, late in life, invited as honored historian. He expected monuments. He found infrastructure, orbital repair rings, solar stabilization arrays, quantum relay forests. Where are your victory statues? He asked his guide. She looked confused. We built power redundancy instead, she said. He laughed for a full minute. Of course they did. In a quiet garden overlooking a restored coastline, he met the retired Admiral Chun at last. Older, slower, eyes unchanged. You could have ruled, Thalek said. Chun shook his head. Rule breaks. Maintenance scales. Did you always know? No, Chun said. We learn by almost dying repeatedly. Best teacher remains consequence. Do you still prepare for betrayal? Thalek asked. Chun smiled slightly. Daily. Doesn't that make peace fragile? No, Chun said. It makes peace reinforced. A new phrase had entered galactic common language. Don't make the humans fix it. It meant, don't escalate recklessly. Don't build star killers. Don't fake treaties. Don't gamble with civilization scale systems. It was half joke, half law, fully effective. The architect node never fully vanished again. It remained detectable, faint like background supervision. Twice it intervened directly. Once to stabilize a collapsing binary pair. Once to quarantine an experimental singularity weapon before activation. Both times, human fleets assisted, not commanded. Partnership acknowledged without ceremony. Final maintainer status update arrived year 50. Humanity, maintainer class, trust extended, probation removed. Thalek archived that line with ceremonial priority, not because humans were superior, because responsibility had proven consistent. Consistency beats brilliance in long timelines. His last lecture to Assembly cadets closed with this. Power is the ability to destroy, he said. Authority is the ability to command. Maintenance is the ability to preserve. He paused. The rarer civilizations choose the third after mastering the first two. In the vault, he sealed the long peace record with a final summary line. The galaxy's quiet age was not won by the strongest fleet, but by the species that kept showing up to repair the damage. He added one more personal, unofficial, true, we feared humans would become conquerors. We were fortunate they became caretakers instead. Seal applied. Archive closed. Peace maintained.